I play before God as a noun and verb, and I will yet be more vile than thus, and will be base in mine own sight, and of the maidservants which thou hast spoken of them shall I be had in honor. Wherefore, Michal, the daughter of Shaul, had no child unto the day of her death. And Dawood said, Is there yet any that is left of the house of Shaul, that I may show him kindness for Jonathan's sake? And there was of the house of Shaul a servant whose name was Ziba. And when they had called him unto Dawood the king, said unto him, Art thou Ziba? And he said, Thy servant is he. And the king said, Is there not any of the house of Shaul, that I may show kindness of God unto him? And Ziba said unto the king, Jonathan hath yet a son, which is lame on his feet. And the king said, Where is he? And Ziba said unto the king, Behold, he is in the house of Machir, the son of Ammiel, in Lo Debar. Then King Dawood sent and fetched him out of the house of Machir, the son of Ammiel, from Lo Debar. When Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Shaul, was come unto Dawood, he fell on his face and did reverence. And Dawood said, Mephibosheth. And he answered, Behold thy servant. And Dawood said unto him, Fear not, for I will surely show thee kindness for Jonathan, thy father's sake, and will restore thee all the land of Shaul thy father. And thou shalt eat bread, my table continually. And he bowed himself and said, What is thy servant, that thou shouldest look upon such a dead dog as I am? And then the king called to Ziba, Shaul's servant, and said unto him, I have given unto thy master's son all that pertained to Shaul, and to all his house. Thou therefore and thy sons and thy servants shall till the land for him, and thou shalt bring in the fruits, that thy master's son may have food to eat. But Mephibosheth, thy master's son, shall eat bread always at my table. Now Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. Now Ziba unto the king, according to all that my lord the king hath commanded his servant, so shall thy servant do. As for Mephibosheth, said the king, he shall eat at my table as one of the king's sons. And Mephibosheth had a young son whose name was Micah, or Micah. I don't know whether they're saying a calf or a cheth, and all that dwelleth in the house of Ziba were servants unto Mephibosheth. So Mephibosheth dwelt in Jerusalem, for he did eat continually at the king's table, and was lame on both his feet. Dawood and Bathsheba, or is it Bathsheba? And it came to pass in an eventide that Dawood arose from off his bed and walked upon the roof of the king's house. And from the roof he saw a woman washing herself, and the woman was very beautiful to look upon. And Dawood sent and inquired after the woman. And one said, Is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite? And Dawood sent messengers, and took her, and she came unto him, and he lay with her, for she was purified from her uncleanliness. She returned to her house, and the woman conceived, and sent and told Dawood, and said, I am with child. Now, I don't know if everybody gets unclean, but referring to menstruation as a state of uncleanliness, a state of keep away from, is the Islamic way of referring to that, and when you cohabitate and before you head out in public and whatnot, it's not considered a state of impurity. So she returned to her house, and the woman conceived, and sent and told Dawood, and said, I am with child. And Dawood sent to Joab, saying, Send me Uriah the Hittite. I don't know how you say Hittite. Is it Chittim or Hathim or something? And Joab sent to Uriah to Dawood. And when Uriah was come unto him, Dawood demanded of him how Joab did, and how the people did, and how the war prospered. And Dawood said to Uriah, Go down to thy house and wash thy feet. And Uriah departed out of the king's house, and there followed him a mess of meat from the king. But Uriah slept at the door of the king's house with all the servants of his lord, and went not down to his house. And when they had told Dawood, saying, Uriah went not down unto his house, Dawood said unto Uriah, Camest thou not from thy journey? Why then didst thou not go down unto thine house? And Uriah said unto Dawood, The ark and Yashral and Yehuda abide in tents, and my lord Joab and the servants of my lord are encamped in the open fields. Shall I then go into mine house to eat and drink, and to lie with my wife, as thou livest, and as thy soul liveth? I will not do this thing. And Dawood said unto Uriah, Tarry here today also, and tomorrow I will let thee depart. So Uriah abode in Jerusalem that day and the morrow. And when Dawood had called him, he did eat and drink before him, and made him drunk. And at even he went out to lie on his bed with the servants of his lord, but went not down to his house. And it came to pass in the morning that Dawood wrote a letter to Joab, and sent it by the hand of Uriah. And he wrote in the letter, saying, Set ye Uriah in the forefront of the hottest battle, and retire ye from him, that he may be smitten and die. And it came to pass, when Joab observed the city, that he assigned Uriah unto a place where he knew that valiant men were. And the men of the city went out and fought with Joab, and there fell some of the people of the servant of Dawood, and Uriah the Hittite also died. Then Joab sent and told Dawood all the things concerning the war, and charged the messengers, saying, When thou hast made an end of telling the matters of this war unto the king, and if so be that the king's wrath arise, and he say unto thee, Wherefore approached ye so nigh? Sorry about the cracking and whatnot. Wherefore approached ye so nigh unto the city? When ye did fight, knew ye not that they would shoot from the wall? Who smote Abimelech, the son of Jerubbesheth? Did not a woman cast a piece of a millstone upon him from the wall, that he died in the Bez? Why went ye nigh the wall? Then say thou, thy servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also. So the messenger went, and came and showed Dawood all that Joab had sent him for. And the messenger said unto Dawood, Surely the men prevailed against us, and it came out unto us in the field, and we were upon them even unto the entering of the gate. And the shooters shot from off the wall upon thy servants, and some of the king's servants be dead, and thy servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also. Then the king said unto the messenger, Thus shalt thou say unto Joab, Let not this thing displease thee, for the sword devoureth one as well as another. Make thy battle more strong against the city, and overthrow it, and encourage thou him. When the wife of Uriah heard that Uriah her husband was dead, she mourned for her husband, and when the mourning was past, Dawood sent and fetched her to his house, and she became his wife, and bore him a son. But the thing that Dawood had done displeased God as a noun and verb, and God as a noun and verb sent Nathan unto Dawood. And he came unto him and said unto him, There were 2 men in one city, one rich and the other poor. The rich man had exceeding many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing, save one little ewe lamb, which he had brought and nourished up. And it grew up together with him and with his children, and it did eat of his own meat, and drank of his own cup, and lay in his bosom, and was unto him as a daughter. And there came a traveler unto the rich man, and he spared to take of his own flock and of his own herd, to dress for the wayfaring man that was come unto him, but took the poor man's lamb, and dressed it for the man that was to come to him. And Dawood's anger was greatly kindled against the man. And he said unto Nathan, As God is a noun and verb liveth, the man that hath done this thing shall surely die, and he shall restore the lamb fourfold, because he did this thing, and because he had no pity. And Nathan said unto Dawood, Thou art the man. Thus saith God is noun and verb, God of Yisrael. I anointed thee king over Yisrael, and I delivered thee out of the hand of Shaul, and I gave thee thy master's house, and thy master's wives unto thy bosom, and gave thee the house of Yisrael and of Yehudah. And if that had been too little, I would moreover have given unto thee such and such things. Wherefore hast thou despised the commandments of God as a noun and verb to do evil in his sight? Thou hast killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword, and hast taken his wife to be thy wife, and hast slain him with the sword of the children of Ammon. Now, therefore, the sword shall never depart from thine house, because thou hast despised me, and hast taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be thy wife. Thus saith God as a noun and verb, Behold, I will raise up evil against thee out of thine own house, and I will take thy wives before thine eyes, and give them unto thy neighbor, and he shall lie with thy wives in the sight of this sun. For thou didst it secretly, but I will do this thing before all Yisrael and before the sun. And I think this type of thing is a later addition to the story. King Dawood and stuff, but not this scandal. I don't think this was an early claim. And Dawood said unto Nathan, I have sinned against God as a noun and verb. And Nathan said unto Dawood, The Lord also hath put away thy sin, thou shalt not die. Howbeit, because by this deed thou hast given great occasion to the enemies of God as a noun and verb to blaspheme, the child also that is born unto thee shall surely die. And Nathan departed unto his house, and God as a noun and verb struck the child that Uriah's wife bore unto Dawood, and it was very sick. And Dawood therefore besought God for the child, and Dawood fasted and went in and lay all night upon the earth, and the elders of his house arose and went to him to raise him up from the earth, but he would not, neither did he eat bread with them. And it came to pass on the 7th day that the child died, and the servants of Dawood feared to tell him that the child was dead. For they said, Behold, while the child was yet alive, we spoke unto him, and he would not hearken unto our voice. How he then vex himself if we tell him that the child is dead? But when Dawood saw that his servants whispered, Dawood perceived that the child was dead. Therefore Dawood said unto his servants, Is the child dead? And they said, He is dead. And Dawood arose from the earth and washed and anointed himself and changed his apparel and came to the house of God as noun and verb and worshipped. And he came to his own house. And when he required, they set bread before him, and he did eat. And said his servants unto him, What thing is this that thou hast done? Thou didst fast and weep for the child while it was alive, but when the child was dead, thou didst rise and eat bread. And he said, While the child was yet alive, I fasted and wept, for I said, Who can tell whether God will be gracious to me, that the child may live? But now he is dead, wherefore should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me. And Dawood comforted Bathsheba, his wife, and went in unto her, and lay with her, and she bore a son, and called his name Shloma or Suleiman, depending on the dialect. And, we say Solomon, but yeah. And God as a noun and verb loved him, and he sent by the hand of Nathan the prophet, and called his name Yedidiah. Oh, I forget how you spell it, but Yedidiah, because of God as a noun and verb, the rebellion of Absalom. And it came to pass after this that Absalom, the son of Dawood, had a fair sister whose name was Tamar. And Amnon, the son of Dawood, loved her, and Amnon was so vexed that he fell sick for his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin, and Amnon thought it hard for him to do anything to her. Well, if it's your sister, that should be a factor in the first place. But Amnon had a friend whose name was Yondab, the son of Shimea, and Dawood's brother. And Yondab was a very subtle man, and he said unto him, Why art thou, being a king's son, lean from day to day? Wilt thou not tell me? And Amnon said unto him, I love Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister. Half-sisters, still too close, dude. And Yondab said unto him, Lay thee down on thy bed, and make thyself sick, and when thy father cometh to see thee, say unto him, I pray thee, let my sister Tamar come, and give me meat, and dress the meat in my sight, that I may see it, and eat it at her hand. So Amnon lay down, and made himself sick, and when the king was come to see him, Amnon said unto the king, I pray thee, let Tamar, my sister, come, and make me a couple of cakes in my sight, that I may eat at her hand. And Dawood sent home to Tamar, saying, Go now to thy brother Amnon's house, and dress him meat. So Tamar went to her brother Amnon's house, and he was laid down. And she took flour, and kneaded it, and made cakes in his sight, and did bake the cakes. And she took a pan, and poured them before him. But he refused to eat. And Amnon said, Have out all men from me. And they went out every man from him. And Amnon said unto Tamar, Bring the meat into the chamber, that I may eat of thine hand. And Tamar took the cakes which she had made, and brought them into the chamber to Amnon her brother. And when she had brought them unto him to eat, he took hold of her, and said unto her, Come lie with me, my sister. And she answered him, Nay, my brother, do not force me, for no such thing ought to be done in Yisrael. Do not thou this folly, and I, whether shall I cause my shame to go? And as for thee, thou shalt be as one of the fools in Yisrael. Therefore, I pray thee, speak unto the king, for he will not withhold me from thee. Howbeit, he would not hearken unto her voice, but being stronger than she, forced her, and lay with her. Then Amnon hated her exceedingly, so that the hatred wherewith he hated her was greater than the love wherewith he loved her. And Amnon said unto her, Arise, be gone. And she said unto him, There is no cause. This evil in sending me away is greater than the other that thou didst unto me. But he would not hearken unto her. Then he called his servant that ministered unto him, and said, Put now this woman out from me, and bolt the door after her. And she had a garment of diverse colors upon her, for with such robes were the king's daughters that were virgins apparelled. Then his servant brought her out, and bolted the door after her. And Tamar put ashes on her head, and rent her garment of diverse colors that was on her, and laid her hand on her head, and went on crying. And Absalom her brother said unto her, Hath Amnon thy brother been with thee? But hold now thy peace, my sister. He is thy brother. Regard not this thing. So Tamar remained desolate in her brother Absalom's house. But when King Dawood heard of all these things, he was very wroth. And Absalom spoke unto his brother Amnon, neither good nor bad. For Absalom hated Amnon, because he had forced his sister Tamar. And it came to pass that after 2 full years that Absalom had sheep shearers in Baal Hazor, which is beside Ephraim. Absalom invited all the king's sons, and Absalom came to the king and said, Behold now, thy servant hath sheep shearers. Let thy king, I beseech thee, and his servants go with thy servant. And the king said to Absalom, Nay, my son, let us not all now go, lest we be chargeable unto thee. And he praised him, howbeit he would not go, but blessed him. Then said Absalom, If not, I pray thee, let my brother Amnon go with us. And the king said unto him, Why should he go with thee? But Absalom pressed him, and he let Amnon and all the king's sons go with him. Now Absalom had commanded his servants, saying, Mark ye now, when Amnon's heart is merry with wine, and when I say unto you, Smite Amnon, then kill him. Fear not. Have not I commanded you? Be courageous, and be valiant. And the servants of Absalom did unto Amnon as Absalom had commanded. Then all the king's sons arose, and every man got him up upon his mule, and fled. And it came to pass, while they were in the way, that tidings came to Dawood, saying, Absalom hath slain all the king's sons, and there is not one of them left. Then the king arose, and tore his garments, and lay on the earth, and all his servants stood by with their clothes rent. And Yundab, the son of Shimea, Dawood's brother, answered and said, Let not my lord suppose that they have slain all the young men the king's sons, for Amnon only is dead. For by the appointment of Absalom, this hath been determined from the day that he forced his sister Tamar. Now therefore let not my lord the king take the thing to his heart, to think that all the king's sons are dead, for Amnon only is dead. But Absalom fled, and went to Geshur, and was there 3 years. And the soul of King Daud longed to go forth unto Absalom, for he was comforted concerning Amnon, seeing he was dead. Now Joab the son of Zeruiah perceived that the king's heart was toward Absalom, and Joab sent to Tekoa, and fetched thence a wise woman, and said unto her, I pray thee, feign thyself to be a mourner, and put on now mourning apparel, and anoint not thyself with oil, but be as a woman that had a long time mourned for the dead, and come to the king, and speak on this manner unto him. So Joab put the words in her mouth. And when the woman of Tekoa spoke to the king, she fell on her face to the ground, and did obeisance, and said, Help, O king. And the king said to her, What aileth thee? And she answered, I am indeed a widow woman, and mine husband is dead, and thine handmaid had 2 sons, and they 2 strove together in the field, and there was none to part them. But the one smote the other and slew him, and behold, the whole family is risen against thine handmaid. And they said, Deliver him that smote his brother, that we may kill him for the life of his brother, whom he slew, and we will destroy the heir also. And so they shall quench my coal which is left, and shall not leave to my husband neither name nor remainder upon the earth. And the king said unto the woman, Go to thine house, and I will give thee charge concerning thee. And the woman of Tekoa said unto the king, My lord, O king, that iniquity be upon me and upon my father's house, and the king and his throne be guiltless. And the king said, Whosoever saith aught unto thee, bring him to me, and he shall not touch thee any more. But, then the woman said, Let thine handmaid, I pray thee, speak one word unto my lord the king. And he said, Say on. And the woman said, Wherefore then hast thou thought such a thing against the people of God? For the king doth speak this thing as one which is faulty, in that the king doth not fetch home again his banished. For we must needs die, and are as water spilt upon the ground, which cannot be gathered up again. Neither doth God respect any person, yet doth he devise means that his banished be not expelled from him. Now, therefore, that I am come to speak of this thing unto my lord the king, it is because the people have made me afraid, and thine handmaid said, I will now speak unto the king. It may be that the king will perform this request of his handmaid. For the king will hear to deliver his handmaid out of the hand of the man that would destroy me and my son together out of the inheritance of God. Then thine handmaid said, The word of my lord the king shall now be comfortable. For as an angel of God, so is my lord the king to discern good and bad. Therefore God is now in verb, Thy God will be with thee. Then the king answered and said unto the woman, Hide not from me, I pray thee, the thing that I shall ask thee. Now, it's a figure of speech. It's not that people chase away God by in a literal sense by doing a bad deed or something. Just not God not being on their side is the point. Then the king answered and said unto the woman, Hide from me, I pray thee, the thing that I shall ask thee. And the woman said, Let my lord the king now speak. And the king said, Is not the hand of Joab with thee in all this? And the woman answered and said, As thy soul liveth, my lord the king, none can turn to the right hand or to the left from aught that my lord the king hath spoken. For thy servant Joab, he bade me, and he put all these words in the mouth of thine handmaid to fetch about this form of speech. Hath thy servant Joab done this thing? And my Lord is wise, according to the wisdom of an angel of God, to know all things that are in the earth. And the king said unto Joab, Behold, now I have done this thing. Go therefore, bring the young man Absalom again. And Joab fell to the ground on his face, and bowed himself, and thanked the king. And Joab said, Today thy servant knoweth that I have found grace in thy sight, my lord, O king, and that the king hath fulfilled the request of his servant. So Joab arose and went to Geshur, and brought Absalom to Jerusalem. And the king said, Let him turn to his own house, and let him not see my face. So Absalom returned to his own house, and saw not the king's face. But in all Yisrael there was none to be so much praise as Absalom for his beauty. From the sole of his foot even to the crown of his head there was no blemish in him. And when he polled his head, for it was at every year's end that he polled it, because the hair was heavy on him, therefore he polled it. He weighed the hair of his head at 200 shekels, after the king's weight. And unto Absalom there were born 3 sons, and 1 daughter, whose name was Tamar. She was a woman of fair countenance.